What's up, fellas? In the second video of the day, we're going to be talking about the Minnesota Timberwolves and the fact that I think you can make the argument that they made one of the worst trades in the NBA in the last 10 years and that they lost the D'Angelo Russell, Andrew Wiggins trade even without the pick being included. We're going to talk about where the Timberwolves are at right now. We're going to talk about that trade specifically. We're going to talk about how it does or does not set them up for the future. Just that whole trade in general, I think now's a really good time to look back on that and fully evaluate that. And that's what we're going to be taking a look at in today's video. But really quickly, before we get started, if you're new here, what's up? My name is Tucker. I upload NBA stuff on this channel twice a day, every single day. So it's the most consistent NBA content on YouTube. So consider subscribing. You can also leave a like rating on the videos as well if you're enjoying them. And you can check me out at various socials in a Linktree link down in the description below to hang out with me outside of these videos. With those things said, let's talk about the D'Angelo Russell for Andrew Wiggins in a pick trade. So I'm going to go ahead and put up two sets of stats on screen here. The top one is D'Angelo Russell this season, and the bottom one is Andrew Wiggins this season. Now, of course, D'Lo's having a better statistical season. He's a better scorer, he's a better offensive player, he's a better individual player than Andrew Wiggins is. However, I think you can make the case that the trade that they made, which was D'Angelo Russell in exchange for Andrew Wiggins and a 2021 top 3 protected first round pick that becomes unprotected next year if it does fall within that top 3 protection this year, I think you can make the case, and I'm about to, that Minnesota lost that trade even without the draft pick being included. First, let's talk about the context of the trade. So Minnesota was looking at this and thinking, Wiggins is on a bad deal. He's not playing very well for us. We're going to use his salary. We're going to give up a pick in order to not only get out from under that number, but to bring in someone to D'Angelo Russell that is exactly what we need. We need perimeter creation. We need creativity. We need a guy that Karl-Anthony Towns really wants to play with. And I'm like, okay, D'Angelo Russell checks all those boxes. We'll dump the Wiggins contract. We'll get rid of that money. Yeah, we're giving up a future pick, but our team is getting better. We're going to start to build a competent roster around Karl-Anthony Towns, and this is going to solve 70% of our problems. The Warriors were looking at it and thinking, we basically got D'Lo for free. Yeah, we had to sign him to a huge contract, but Kevin Durant was going to leave regardless. We got D'Angelo Russell as a result of Kevin Durant leaving. We can turn him into a swingman that we think we can rehabilitate into a good asset that's still just 24 years old at the time of the deal, and a top 3 protected 2021 pick that then becomes unprotected in 2022 from historically the worst franchise in league history. We'll do that. And now here we are, a little bit down the road, and it's become clear that the Timberwolves really overrated D'Angelo Russell, and they're not alone in that, in thinking that D'Angelo Russell is a guy that you need to be building around, or that he needs to be, your point guard that's running everything, when realistically, D'Angelo Russell was never really an all-star guy. He made an all-star team on a team that had a great story in Brooklyn. They had this great turnaround, and he was at the center of it. And he was an injury replacement guy for an all-star team. And then suddenly we started treating D'Angelo Russell like he was an up-and-coming all-NBA guy. And Minnesota did the same thing. And now here we are, and D'Lo's only played 20 games this year. Injury issues suck, whatever the case may be. Wiggins looks like a real NBA player again in Golden State. And that's what the Warriors were always counting on. They were always counting on this idea that the difference between their infrastructure and how they play basketball and Minnesota's, the gap between that is so drastic that they can even rehabilitate someone who a lot of people thought was as lost as Andrew Wiggins was. And they'll take the pick as well. And when you combine that with the fact that the position and the way that Wiggins plays, which is, an off-ball guy that can score a little bit on the ball, can make some jump shots off the ball, can defend, provides you nice size on the wing. Those are guys that every team in the league needs. Look around at even some of the better teams in the league. Look at Denver. Denver would love to have someone like Andrew Wiggins on their roster because they don't have a ton of competent, true wings, like combo 3-4 guys that they can throw out there. They're going to score, they're going to shoot, they're going to defend. They don't have guys like that. They've got Michael Porter Jr., but apart from that, they're relying a lot on people like Torrey Craig. Look at Portland. Portland's been looking for a player like that for years. So Golden State looked at it and said, we'd rather have that than a league average point guard at a position that is the most saturated position in the entire league, and that is point guard, lead guard, pick and roll guy, however you want to qualify it, and that's D'Angelo Russell. And so even just from a player standpoint, even just when you're comparing Wiggins and D'Lo, I think I would rather have Andrew Wiggins right now. I really, really do. Andrew Wiggins in Golden State over D'Angelo Russell in Minnesota. That would be the way I would have that in my head, and you include the pick as well. And this is especially critical for a Minnesota team that, again, typically, they don't do very well. Things don't really go well for Minnesota historically. Since they've come into the league, they are the worst team in the entire league. And that trend has continued for them, with the exception of, a bit of a nice run when Kevin Garnett was on the roster, and then Jimmy Butler led them to the playoffs once. But other than that, they've been awful. And so to make the calculation that they would rather have D'Angelo Russell so badly over Andrew Wiggins that they would not only give up Wiggins, but that they would trade away a future pick, top 3 protected, for a team that consistently falls in the top 10 in the draft order is borderline inexcusable. Now, I understand, as we mentioned, the context of it, right? I mean, you can't let someone like Karl-Anthony Towns just leave. You just can't. You have to find a way to A, make him happy, B, build a competent team around him. And if you think that D'Angelo Russell is the guy to do that, then there's a lot more that goes into the calculation than just the value of Andrew Wiggins and the pick in exchange for the value of D'Angelo Russell, because the value that D'Angelo Russell provides isn't confined strictly to the basketball court. And if it's something that makes Karl-Anthony Towns happy and staves off what I think is an inevitable trade request from Karl-Anthony Towns, then okay, maybe it's worth it in your mind. I think you could absolutely make that case. But the problem now for Minnesota is you're looking at a future that is incredibly, incredibly uncertain. I think there's talent on this roster. Anthony Edwards has shown at times the potential of a future all-star caliber guy. D'Lo's not a bad basketball player. He's overpaid. He probably won't ever make an all-star team again, but he's not bad. He can score for you, he can facilitate if he gets healthy. Karl-Anthony Towns has the scoring ability, to be one of the best scorers in the league. The problem is, though, you put yourself at a disadvantage because, one, you only really get a chance at a couple of max guys, and you decided that D'Lo is one of them. Granted, Minnesota doesn't get many chances at all at a max guy, but you're spending a lot of money on D'Lo and not having this pick, especially in a 2021 class that looks really, really strong. And I know that it's possible that they could get the first pick in the draft. They could get the best player in a very, very good draft class, throw them into the mix here, and they're rolling forward. And they've got Malik Beasley and Anthony Edwards and Karl-Anthony Towns and the rookie and D'Angelo Russell, and they're good. They're chilling. But the possibility also exists that pick lands at 4, and we run it back next year, and the same roster that has got like 10 wins so far this season runs it back next year without having added a high-value rookie to your roster, which is the whole point of how the NBA works. You're supposed to be able to get better through the draft because you're really bad, because you get a good player. Now, granted, it won't be the exact same roster next year. They've had plenty of injury issues. You could make the case that they've had the unluckiest season in the league between everything going on, between injury stuff, whatever the case may be. You could make that case. And you could also make the case that if they come back next year with a better coach, with better injury luck, they could win 40 games. I think you could make that case. But it would be a lot easier if I knew that they had full control over their pick this year, or that I knew they had full control over their pick in 2022. Should they end up losing, or not losing the pick this year, they would lose it in 2022. It would make me feel a lot better about their future if they had control over those. And ultimately, the calculation was just incorrect. That they looked at that situation and said that D'Angelo Russell was worth not only Wiggins, who again has turned into a fine player in Golden State, albeit still overpaid, but I would say, again, more of an asset right now than D'Angelo Russell, but that you would also be willing to give up a piece of your future in order to bring him in. The only excuse for that would be Karl-Anthony Towns is going to leave within 12 months if we don't bring someone in. We have to bring in D'Lo. They tried to get him in the offseason prior before he ended up going to Golden State. They tried to figure out a way to make the money work, and they couldn't, partially because of the Wiggins thing. So, I mean, I understand that's part of the calculation, but there's two ways this goes. There's the really positive scenario in which either they keep their pick this year, they get a really good pick in 2022, they get a really good player between one of the next 2 draft classes, okay? And they add that to a talent pool that continues to grow and develop. D'Lo gets better, Anthony Edwards gets better, Karl-Anthony Towns gets better. They learn how to guard, they get a good coach, and they've got the talent of a 45-win team 2 years from now. Karl-Anthony Towns decides to say, he said, you know what, it was tough, but at least now we've got a good team. I know what the playoffs feels like. I want to stay. Then there's the other scenario in which, they only get one rookie out of the next 2 classes. They don't pick the right one. They pick the one that gets hurt all the time. They pick the one that doesn't develop properly, or they don't develop them properly, which is they've had a history of. And everything goes downhill. Karl-Anthony Towns within 14 months says, you know what, peace. I don't want to be here anymore. Send me somewhere else. And you kind of have to do it. I know that he's under contract for the next couple of years, but you're Minnesota. Every team is going to be circling around your team knowing that Karl-Anthony Towns, once he decides he wants to leave, would rather be anywhere else than a team that always wins 20 games, is in an awful market, and it has awful weather. That's the bottom line. Those are your 2 scenarios, Minnesota fans. I think there's talent. I think there's something you can build around here. But this D'Lo trade is inexcusable. What they did, to just dump a Wiggins contract that was their fault in the first place has then now been compounded into a mistake that further limits their future in a way that the Wiggins contract never would have. Would it have made it a little bit difficult to make moves to have $25 million on your roster every year for Andrew Wiggins? Absolutely. But no more so than having D'Angelo Russell just by itself would have, and now also losing the pick. It was a bad move. Like, realistically, one of the worst moves of the last 10 years. I'm not kidding. And I know that it's been probably the toughest season in the league has been Minnesota this year, unless you want to count the Rockets, because they can't seem to win a basketball game. But ultimately, I don't have anything to say to you other than your team messed up. Hopefully they figured it out. But that's going to be the end of the second video of the day. And thank you guys very much for watching. Once again, my name is Tucker. If you missed any of my previous videos, then be sure to check out the boxes on screen. As I said, you can like the video. You can check out more links from me in a link tree down in the description below to hang out with me outside of these videos. And yeah, hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. And I will see you all next time.